Avengers Kang Dynasty might be off the books. It might be changed. That's been the big story all week, that apparently not only have Marvel changed the writer for Kang Dynasty, removed the writer, but now the director, the same guy who directed Shang-Chi, who's still going to direct Shang-Chi 2 on the Wonder Man show. He's still going to be in charge of that show. He's been removed from Kang Dynasty, and now everyone's been talking about now the possibility that Marvel might be pivoting and removing Kang as the villain, as the main villain of the multiverse saga, and bringing somebody else in. Now, there's a lot of different theories about why this is going on. Everything from Jonathan Majors' upcoming trial to them realizing that Kang might not be a fit huge villain, to them saying, well, we didn't really get Kang over in the way Thanos got over. All of that could be a factor. We're talking about that today here. I am joined by Mike, as usual, here from Laughing Stock Media and Cinema. We do discussions on nerd topics from time to time, but I wanted to bring him on because I don't want to just give my thoughts. I want to get his thoughts as well. First of all, I want to say that just because the writer and director have been removed from Kang Dynasty, that does not mean that Kang Dynasty is actually being changed. That's just a theory that people from the inside of Hollywood have, because why would you remove a writer and a director? And by the way, this is all information coming out secondhand, not publicly. Why would you remove them and still have the same movie going on? Sometimes it could be a creative difference. I mean, these things happen. But the scuttlebutt, the gossip column has been, I think they're going to be changing and pivoting to them not having Kang, not the big red machine, the big blue guy from the future, purple and blue guy. But what I wanted to say was, I don't know for sure if this is a possibility, but people seem to be very leaning towards the idea that Kang is no longer going to be the main focus of Phase 4, 5, and 6. Well, not Phase 5 and 6. So, first of all, Mike, I want to ask you about Jonathan Majors and Kang the Conqueror. Do you feel that Kang the Conqueror is an appropriate follow-up to Thanos? And do you feel like, just as a fan, that you feel cheated that he might not end up being the main focus villain-wise of Marvel Phase 5 and 6 now, going forward?
Yes to both. I mean, the thing is that Loki did a great job of setting up Kang as this ultimate villain that transcends everything Thanos ever accomplished. I mean, Thanos in the comics has way more of an argument to be made comparative to Kang, but in the movies, like, Thanos was like built up really well in the movies, even though they kind of went a little bit out of the way with like Ultron stuff that was barely even connected to him at all, other than that one end credit scene. But the thing is, like, with Thanos, the most that he did was he snapped away half of life in the universe. He killed some of the main characters because he wiped them out, but then they all came back anyway. The thing with Kang, he's such a massive threat that is way above Thanos, because he literally erased infinite timelines, and including all the different Thanoses, all the different Avengers. He killed them one after the next, over and over and over again. He won a multiversal war. He basically was the architect and the Oracle combined with Palpatine, where he took over the timeline and just figured literally everything out. He had control of time. And so everything Kang did is way beyond anything Thanos ever did in the movies. And I think they set it up really well for him and his variants to be the big villains moving forward. Plus, Jonathan Majors doing a great job as all of them, whether it be He Who Remains, and you didn't learn how to pause time yet, or like Victor Timely, you know, like all the different variations he does.
He's a great actor.
And he does such an awesome job in this and Creed, everything he's in. So it really suck if they replace him because of like external things that he hasn't even been convicted over, right? You know, like things that it's kind of like what happened with Johnny Depp. I mean, it might not be the same situation, but they removed him from all these big movies, and then it's like, oh wait, he didn't even get convicted of anything that, you know, he got everything kind of overturned.
It's a Hollywood thing where they get scared of this kind of stuff and they remove you guilty until proven innocent. The thing I want to say is, if Jonathan Majors has in his contract that he's supposed to be in these X number of movies and they remove him, that could be grounds for a lawsuit. However, Marvel, likely what probably is going on is Marvel probably has their lawyers, and you know Disney lawyers are not going to screw around, probably put some kind of out for them. Now, again, it's going to be crazy if this guy gets found innocent when this whole thing is said and done and loses the ability to be Kang. Now, at the same time, though, it's gonna look bad. It's gonna be bad optics on Marvel. However, I think what Marvel's gonna probably do, because there is a way out of this, is in order to save their own optics, they're gonna say, "Well, we didn't remove him because of the Jonathan Majors' issues. We removed him because we decided to go in a different direction." Now, the truth is,
Yeah,
they
creative
can
differences.
well, not so much creative differences, although that is they could word it that way. It's more so like, okay, we had this idea, and then we changed it. Because if you remember, originally the talk was that Kang the Conqueror was not supposed to be the next big multiversal threat. Originally, it was supposed to be somebody else, and they switched it over to Kang when they recorded the Loki show, and they saw how great Jonathan Majors was. Now, the
Okay.
thing that people will say though is, and this is the counter argument to what you said, even though I agree with you. The counter argument that I hear over and over and over again is that, well, the scariest Kang lost to Ant-Man. He lost to Ant-Man and a bunch of ants, which that may be true, even though I think if you go back and watch that, obviously mini Kang isn't going to be as strong as the Kang that's full size, but nevertheless, I do kind of see that the way he lost that fight, even though he may or may not be dead, the way he lost that fight was definitely not as bad as people think. They think that like Ant-Man just whooped his ass, and that's not what happened. He hit a button, he got sucked down into that machine. So it wasn't like he, killed him with his bare hands. It wasn't one of those things.
Yeah.
But
The thing is too with
people do make
regard
a good point though. I mean, we've seen Kang die twice on screen. Actually,
I
no,
mean,
three times, because Victor Timely spaghettified. So that's three times.
yeah, I mean, we heard Kang get killed like a million times by Sylvie too. Oh, see you soon. But
And the
that's the
thing is,
thing.
because of Kang's character, he can die a lot and still be
Yeah,
dangerous. That's part of
that's the thing.
Kang.
Like, death doesn't have any hold over a guy that has foreseen literally every single out.
And
You know,
let's not
it's
forget what he said: reincarnation,
yeah.
baby, baby.
So the thing is that I don't really agree with that idea because it's like, oh, Kang got beaten Ant-Man, so he's clearly not as imposing as a brand new character, Doctor Doom, who would be introduced. And see, the big thing with Doctor Doom taking over that I don't like with him kind of replacing
I
Kang
want to
is
get to
the
that
fact
today.
that if that happens, that's not a good idea for me because the fact that, sure, Doctor Doom is a really iconic villain and he is, a big multiversal threat because he is like an evil version of Iron Man in a sense, but he also has powers. He could use magic, he has super intellect, he has a super will, so you can even take over his mind. Like, I get it. And he took over the powers of the Beyonder and everything like that. But a massive difference between this Doctor Doom that we could see do that in the MCU and the one from the comics is time, ironically, because that's Kang's biggest strength. Kang has been built up in the MCU since the first Loki, but Doctor Doom will be freshly introduced, and we haven't even seen the new Fantastic Four movie
Well,
yet.
they
So it's
haven't
kind of
even
like,
shot it yet. They don't even have a cast yet.
exactly. So
Yeah,
it's
and
like
that's
if they
not
have
coming
Doctor
down for another
Doom,
couple years.
yeah, so if they have Doctor Doom come in and try and replace Kang, he's gonna barely have any screen time, barely any buildup. So even though they give us Doctor Doom, which for all we know they might also botch the whole delivery of him because they always do that in every live action Fantastic Four,
That's
then
true.
we're gonna just get Kang replaced by an inferior villain who in the comics had decades of time of buildup before he gained those powers and was one of the most iconic original villains that literally inspired like Darth Vader and other characters like that. But not just that, but additionally, we also would have the comic version being again way preceding it. So I don't really like that idea. I think that they should just play out the whole Kang storyline, and then after that, you can have Galactus, you can have Doctor Doom, you can have all these characters, but you could introduce them beforehand and have the villains and the heroes teaming up, and then maybe leave something over for Doctor Doom to take over in a sense. But if he just like shows up and kills Immortus or something, he's like, I'm in charge now. Doom
Well,
is in charge. It's like,
okay. Let me before we get to that, I want to say this. Once again, I want to say that when it comes to the Jonathan Majors thing, that's one report. I don't think that's the only reason, but I just want to get that out of the way. So as far as Doom
yeah.
goes, I want to first talk about Thanos. So Thanos, people act like Thanos had better build-up. Thanos was in the Avengers end credit scene or mid credit scene. He was in the Avengers Age of Ultron mid credit scene and had one appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy. That's it. And he wound up like cucking Ronan the Accuser, right? Okay, then his biggest thing was in Infinity War when he beat all the heroes and then he snapped the universe. So basically he had four big sort of moments. With
Yeah.
Kang,
And he gets
it's
killed in the first 5 minutes of the next movie.
right, and but correct. Now with well not 5 minutes, but I get your point. First like 15 minutes. But with Kang, you've had the low key season 1 and 2. You've had Ant-Man. You have presumably more Kangs appearing in more things in the future because the idea, from what I understand, is there was a rumor that for the Marvels they were going to have a mid-credit scene with Kang, and that wound up getting changed. But the rumor was that for future Marvel movies, including Deadpool 3, they were going to have little sort of like sprinkles of Kang until we finally get to Kang Dynasty. And that would have been a good idea. However, this idea that Thanos had all this buildup, yeah, he was built up well. I'm not saying he wasn't. But objectively, if you continue building up Kang, you could build him up better. I think people, if you build up Kang as being a real monster, people will forget the Ant-Man thing. If you actually show Kang, if they actually were to not talk about it, have I killed you before? Are you the one with the hammer? If they actually show Kang killing and choking out... Dude, imagine if they actually showed him holding up, like, Thor by the neck. Or, like a decapitated Captain America next to him or something. Then you're going to believe it. Then you're going to... And that's been Marvel's failure. I think they should, like you said, they should continue on the path with Kang. And what they should do is introduce Doctor Doom prior to Secret Wars. You could still have Doctor Doom win the Secret War like we did in the comic, but still have Kang sort of be the big villain. You could even have Doctor Doom help the heroes beat Kang, and then Phase 7 and Phase 8, then you have Doctor Doom be the villain. I think it'd be better if you introduce Doctor Doom before the next phase, before Phase 7, have him be in the Kang storyline, have him help out the heroes, and then when he's done with them, he can then be elevated to main villain status. Sort of like what they try to do with Kylo Ren in Last Jedi, where he helps take out the villain, where he did take out the villain, he gets elevated to top villain status. It makes sense. So I think that's
Kang returned.
Yeah, somehow Kang returned. No, but like the thing is, that's the way to do it. However, there's obviously going to be pressure. Disney is a left-leaning company. They're very scared about their optics. I mean, hell, they fired Gina Carano over a Twitter freaking comment.
So stupid.
Like there's a lot of BS with Disney. However, if Jonathan Majors is found guilty, I don't think recasting... Let me ask you about the recasting thing, because people have said, well, they can recast. There's variants. No, you can't. Here's why. Because the mid-credit scene of Ant-Man showed all the variants, and 90% of them, except for a few aliens, were Jonathan Majors. Not just that, but the main ones, Immortus, Ramata, and Centurion, are all Jonathan Majors. You can't just now say, well, there's a million more variants that look like Wesley Snipes. It doesn't work that way, bro, whoever they get. Like, it doesn't work that way.
As I said in my review, you guys could see on my channel of the season, I actually said it would be funny if they replaced him with Terrence Howard. Because they had replaced Terrence Howard with Don Cheadle, and so then they
we find out that he was we find out that Iron Man 1 takes place in a variant universe, but the same thing happened. But the same thing happened in the 616 universe, but with Don Cheadle instead, and they can reshoot scenes from Iron Man 1, but instead put Don Cheadle in. Dude, that'd be hilarious if they did that.
Yeah, I feel like they did something like that kind of with the second Spider-Man, right? With where
the
they
Raimi
had,
one.
No, the new one, Far From Home
Far
or
From
whatever,
Home.
where they had kind of like the scenes of Jake Gyllenhaal like being in the background of stuff from like the first Iron Man, where they're yelling at like Tony Stark built this in a cave, and you just have that guy there like applauding Jake Gyllenhaal, and kind of like retroactive continuity. But yeah, I don't know, like you said, and you said this in a video of your own, like this is really different from recasting Edward Norton or Terrence Howard, because that was
too
really
far
early
in.
on. Yeah. And even like recasting Thunderbolt Ross is a little bit more acceptable, even though
he died.
Even then,
I mean,
yeah, like it's more acceptable because of that. But even then, it's like kind of strange at this late in the series. But the fact of the matter is that I don't think it works based upon how we saw the variants played by Jonathan Majors. And not just that, but it is something that'll take the wind out of the sails even more because like you're setting up the big bad villain and then you replace him. Like they did this for Thanos because they originally had Sidney Poitier's son doing him in like actual like makeup and stuff like that
In
in
the
the end of
mid-credit
the
scene.
Avengers. But then
Yeah.
everything moving forward was like the Jonathan
And you
Brolin
couldn't tell.
one.
You couldn't tell
So
that it wasn't Josh Brolin. You
oh,
couldn't
Josh
tell.
Brolin, yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't tell. Like, I mean, we knew, but like that recasting was different because he didn't even speak. Whereas in
Yeah.
Guardians and in Avengers 2, he spoke. But we've seen like the difference is that you have a big CGI monster with Kang. It's a
Hmm.
human guy. Like Kang is not just
Yeah.
some alien. Kang, when you recast Chewbacca, okay, what is it? I was about to say
Going.
Peter Mayhew. Peter Mayhew was
Yeah.
already old. He was wearing a cane. Like, okay, get a big tall guy to put in a Wookiee suit. That's fine. You can't do that with Kang because Jonathan Majors' face. You know, a young, angry black man. That's Kang the Conqueror, bro. And that's why, like, the rumor of Mr. Fantastic possibly being black in the new movie, that would make sense only because if they're going to say that he's the same lineage as him, it would make sense. Same thing with Doctor Doom. Now,
I mean, maybe he hooked up with somebody who wasn't
that's
white in the future.
well, that not just that, but also that's true with the lineage
It's like a
going
thousand
down.
years too, right?
It's 1,000 years, so you're right. I mean, that they could easily just explain that. You know, even if Mr. Fantastic's white, his Franklin's wife could have been white, and then their kid could have married white, and it could have just diluted the bloodline, right, or whatever you want to call it. It happens, man. It's genetics, but it doesn't matter. Black or white is irrelevant. I just think that
Yeah.
Majors is perfect for that role. And
Hmm.
I would not get rid of him, even if they're not getting the feedback they wanted. When Thanos was in Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't remember people going crazy over him. The comic book
No.
fans were because they all knew who Thanos was. And
Yeah.
people are saying that Kang is not connected. I think that's Marvel's fault, and I think it's their
Hmm.
responsibility to actually show Kang destroying some motherfuckers. I mean,
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
they did with Wanda killing the Illuminati in Doctor Strange 2, they should do the same thing with Kang. Not the same
Yeah.
characters, but show him actually fighting some really tough opposition and winning. Instead of just telling us, "Oh, you're an Avenger. I've killed many Avengers." Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine,
exactly.
bro. But show us. You have to show us. Yeah, if they show Rama
That's a
Tut
great
like
point.
stabbing Wolverine through the chest or something like that, like then at least it's like okay, we believe. So what
Yeah,
I
that's a great point because I did want to say
mhm.
before you get into the next one, the biggest issue with what you're saying, with what Marvel has done rather, is that everything Kang has done thus far in terms of all his impressive feats have been a combination of exposition
Talk.
and implication. So we haven't seen Kang kill people, but he said he did. We didn't see Kang actually win the multiversal war and
We
set
just heard
everything up,
about it.
but we saw him do it, and or we heard him do it.
And
And
there's that
so,
one scene in Ant-Man
yeah,
where he's like destroying people, like blast, but he's not destroying any superheroes.
yeah, exactly. So that was something I was disappointed with the end of Ant-Man. Like I thought Kang should have won and actually killed Ant-Man, and then actually set him up as like a bigger threat than he is. Like in terms of on screen. But like
I thought he was
we
gonna
talked
kill
about
Hank
this.
Pym. I thought he was gonna kill
Yeah,
Hank Pym.
and we talked about all this in like the Loki reviews we were doing, the discussions where like it's already difficult enough for people to understand a lot of the time travel stuff from Loki. I already have gotten pushback with me in my reviews saying that's like a peak MCU type of series and everything like
I
that.
mean, I told
But
you, bro. The casuals are gonna be
yeah.
confused.
And it's like that's probably another thing that like they're confused about Kang at this point rather than like terrified by him. But all Marvel has to do, like you said, is just have one even scene of Kang killing the Avengers on his own and looking like a badass, and people are like, okay, instantly sold. I'll go see Kang Dynasty, or like
I
Kang
agree.
Dynasty ends with him killing all the Avengers, and like it's much worse than Thanos because Thanos left some of them alive. Maybe Kang will kill every single one except for one of them, and then the multiversal Avengers have to step in. So
That
like,
was
there's so much
the
they could
theory.
do.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say about the Doctor Doom thing is I somewhat disagree with you, but I agree with you about your thoughts on
Hmm.
Doctor Doom. I do think Doctor Doom could actually be built up as being a serious threat, and I think
Yeah.
we are far enough away from Avengers 5 that they could do that. Avengers 5 is not set to hit theaters until May of 2025. That's what we've been
Hmm.
told so far. So that gives them a good 2 years to actually have Doctor Doom be established. Even before the Fantastic Four movie, there was a leak a while ago that wound up being changed. That the original mid-credit scene for Black Panther 2 was supposed to be the introduction of Doctor Doom. But when Chadwick Boseman died, they changed everything about that movie.
Okay, I didn't know
Understandably so. So I think there's still enough time to build up Doctor Doom. I think so. However, I do agree with you that Kang is seen as a bigger threat. There is one thing they could do, and that is, and this is something that is very Rise of Skywalker-ish, but they could reveal that Doom is actually the one behind everything, including Immortus, Ramatut. They all work for Doom. I'm not a huge fan of them doing that because it really comes off like being, you know, it really
like
comes off
retcon and
like
shoved in there.
last minute bullshit. It really and it goes against kind of the whole idea of what He Who Remains said about how the Kangs themselves wanted to conquer. If you're a conqueror, bro, you ain't gonna take orders from nobody. However,
Yeah.
there is, if I remember correctly, in one of the Secret Wars comics, I believe that Kang is working for Doctor Doom. There is a storyline where he is, so they do have a precedent for that in the comics. And I do think that that is one way to get out of it. However, if you're going to do this, you still got to have Majors play Kang. Even if he's not the main villain, even if we find out in Secret Wars that he's working for Doctor Doom and he's just his Darth Vader, ironic that he is the guy who inspired Darth Vader's Darth Vader, I wouldn't be a huge fan of that, but it is a way to do that, but you're still going to have Majors there. I think if they are worried about Kang not being a proper next big villain, they could do that. However, if it ends up being the case, I don't like the idea of Doctor Doom getting killed off in Secret Wars either, especially since he was the victor of 2 Secret Wars. I actually think if they were smart, in my opinion, and we talked about this, for a while, Kang can be beaten in Secret Wars. Maybe not killed, because there's good variants of Kang that could stay alive. You should beat the Council of Kangs. Those guys need to go. Immortus, Ramatut, Centurion, they all need to die. And then, going forward, you could introduce Doctor Doom, have him win the Secret War, but have him, at that point, graduate to main villain status, and then have him be the main villain of Phase 7, Phase 8.
Well,
that, I
here's the
think,
thing.
works the best.
Here's the thing I'm wondering. Will the next Avengers just be part 1, like what we saw with Infinity War and
Well, that was one of the leaks that came out was that Kang Dynasty, Kang wins, and then in Secret Wars they beat Kang, which is what they did with, like you said, Infinity War and Endgame, which is originally Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2. There's another leak that came out though, saying that Marvel was gonna split Secret Wars into 2 movies. That was going to be Avengers 5, Avengers 6, and Avengers 7, with Secret Wars being 2 movies. Now, they have not announced that. This is all just internal, leaks that could or may not be true. But if that's the case, Mike, we've got 3, a trilogy of Avengers movies that could have Kang. Or maybe Kang gets beaten Secret Wars Part 1. I'm not flipping you off. This is my ring finger. And then in Secret Wars 2... Doctor Doom is the main villain. I don't like the idea of Doctor Doom getting killed in Secret Wars. I like him being that villain that always escapes. Like every other Marvel villain, except for a small handful of them, have died. I like the idea. I know, me too. I like the idea of him escaping. I like the idea of him, plotting where they think he's dead, but there's a mid-credit scene where he's like, he's actually alive. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, stuff like that they could do, because let's not forget, bro, a lot of stuff has changed, because if you remember, the mid-credit scene of Doctor Strange 1 implied that Mordo was going to be the villain of Doctor Strange 2.
Oh, yeah.
And he wasn't. Apparently, from what we understand, that Mordo died off screen. Oh, he died somehow. And they just dropped it. So now we're getting, but that's what I'm saying. Now we're getting to the point where Marvel's starting to drop storylines. And like what Raw used to do when they would just drop angles one week after another. And I think if they
Kang's
do that.
getting a start and stop push.
Well, maybe. The point is that I think them stopping Kang is a mistake, but if the general audience is not connecting with Kang, I think the problem is not that. I think they, like you said, and we talked about, they need to establish Kang as being a serious threat beyond just low key. That's
Hmm.
what Deadpool 3 could be used for. I don't think it will be, but it could be used for that.
Yeah. And
Ulti-
Loki and Wolverine seem like two villains that would be able to survive against
Wolverine's not a
Kang
villain.
and then go. And no, I mean like they seem like two characters who would be able to survive against Kang in the fights because they're both like uber regenerators. So like maybe they'll encounter Kang and he'll kill everyone and then they escape and they're like, oh shit, we got to go warn the others.
They could do a lot of things. They could do a thing where, yeah, like Deadpool. You said Loki. Did you mean to say Deadpool?
Probably.
I'm just making
Hey, we're
sure.
doing it live. We're doing it live.
Right. Well, I like the idea of Kang whooping their ass, but or maybe they beat a Kang, but then multiple Kang show up and whoop their ass. I mean, the best way to do this is to have the Council of Kang, the three guys, Immortus, Ramatut, and Centurion, actually be the three that take these guys out. See, that would be awesome. Not
Yeah.
kill them, but just beat them up real bad to where they play the role of Hulk in Infinity War, where he's like, "Oh, he's coming. Kang is coming. We have to do something." That
Yeah.
would be awesome if they did that. I don't know if they will. I'm just, man, it's just the whole thing sucks. At the same time, a lot of people really seem to be on board with them switching Kang out for Doctor Doom. I don't know, man. I think
I just
Doctor
think that would
Doom
be
and
a big
Kang,
mistake.
they're two different villains. They're very different.
Yeah, I think it would be a big mistake for them to do that. I think the main reason why people are saying that is because of name recognition. But at the end of the day, like, why does it matter if Doctor Doom has name recognition or is better in the comics and cartoons? When at the end of the day, we haven't even seen the guy in the MCU yet, and they might screw him up. I mean,
Well, not
they
just that,
might.
but also you could still have Doom be the villain of the next phase. Like, you know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
could still build. You could actually use Kang to build him up, and then you make him a big threat. I agree with you
Yeah.
that even if they take their time, there is time. But even if they take their time, it's still gonna feel very shoehorned because we know that wasn't the plan. Same thing with Snoke. Oh well, the whole time Snoke was a clone. There is no clues in any of the first
Yeah.
two sequel movies that he was a clone. None.
The last thing Disney needs to do is pull another Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. I mean, like imagine they have the Council of Kangs and they all just get blown up, and Doctor Doom's like, "I'm the real villain,
Yeah, you
Doom."
mentioned
And
that
it's
earlier
like,
in the thing. Yeah, that's why I thought it would make more sense if they were working for him. But even that
yeah.
feels shoehorned. Even that
And the
feels.
thing is too, like, what about Victor Timely? Like the whole thing about not wanting a partner, right? Like maybe that's gonna be the thing that will undo the Kangs because they don't actually want to be each other. They're all gonna stab each other in the back. But if they're all working for Doctor Doom, that basically is the
You're
same
right.
thing.
You're
So
right.
it's kind of
You're
like
right.
it would be weird for that too, unless they kind of go back on that.
You're right about that. No, you're absolutely right about that. They could go back on it and say that, well, only he who remains and Victor Timely want to work with each other. But in reality, Kang only trusts one other person, and that's Kang. But the most
Yeah.
ironic thing, which what you said was foreshadowed in the Loki series, which is he who remains, not just in Loki, but also in Ant-Man, he who remains and Kang the Conqueror and Ant-Man, both those characters obviously didn't get along with the council. So
Hmm.
it feels like the council is going to eventually implode. And I think it
Yeah.
would be a great idea if that is sort of what gives the good guys an advantage. We see the council
Hmm.
literally falling apart and then the superheroes take advantage of it and they win.
Yeah.
But I agree with you all completely that that's a better solution than just shoehorning Doctor Doom in.
Yeah, it'd be like Thanos in the comics. The only reason Thanos loses in the comics is not because of himself. It's, well, in terms of his plans, they're always flawless. It's because he himself doesn't believe he deserves the power.
That
So if
happened
they
a
use
couple
another
times.
character, exactly. So if they believe that Kang, in this case, we have it where he will never partner with another one, he'll always betray them. Well, then that
Like
is
a
the way that
Sith.
they could defeat him as well. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be a much better ending, like you said, and they could set up Doom for like the future villain, Galactus, all that stuff. But if they want to hotshot everything right now, I think it's going to go worse. It's going to be like what happened with WB and DC. They kept changing it because of feedback, and then in turn they missed out on way better versions of the story than what we ended up getting.
Something else they could do, just gave me an idea, is because there's a way you can do that and also have Doctor Doom involved. You could, instead of having Doctor Doom be the secret boss and having Kang be subservient to him, you could have a situation where, and this is something that was in the comics. So there's a storyline in the Marvel comics where Kang the Conqueror thinks that he might be not just a descendant of Reed Richards, but of Doom. right? The story being that he thinks that he's the same blood as Doom. They could easily
Yeah.
do a storyline where Doom is subservient to one of the Kangs. So in other words, the Kang Dynasty is using Doctor Doom, right? They're using him as their sort of pawn or as a soldier, right? Like they're using him, but really what's going on is Doctor Doom is secretly plotting to betray them by instigating issues with them and whispering to
Oh
Ramatut,
yeah,
hey,
that'd be great.
that's a Doom shit. That's what Doom does. Like, what the fuck? Dude, Doom could literally tell Ramatut, like, hey, you know Centurion's planning to betray you, right? He is? Yeah, yeah. Tell Immortus, sir, Ramatut is secretly, creating an army behind your back. They could do shit like that where Doom is secretly kind of whispering in the Kang's ear, and because the Kangs are narcissistic, just like we heard He Who Remains say, they're gonna believe Doom, and ultimately Doom's trying purposely to get the heroes to beat him so he could take over. That actually makes the most sense. That's the way they should go with the story. I just broke the fucking code, bro. I don't know if
Yeah.
Kevin Feige's going to take the advice, but I think that's the best thing they could do. But, well, we're
we'll
worried
have,
because Jonathan Majors might be a woman beater, even though he hasn't been found guilty yet.
Yeah, and let's be honest, the real villain of the Secret Wars is going to be Kevin the Robot, and She-Hulk is going to leave the movie screen, and she's going to fight
No,
him
the
and
real
defeat
villain's
him.
going to be Kathleen
And,
Kennedy for some reason, bro.
Yeah,
That's the real villain. Not Kevin the Robot, Kathleen the droid. Bob Chapek. Bob Chapek is the real villain. Anyways,
and then Luke Skywalker will show up and kill all the Kangs in a hallway.
that'd be awesome. I would like to see that. Anyways, man, that's it. Do you have any other thoughts?
Plenty of them, but not safe for work one.
With that said, bye.